and welcome to ESA 2020 Student Highlights, Day 6. Today we have Jimmy Wehsener, who's going to be talking about his research, his presentation, his goals, and his experience with ESA 2020. I know ESA 2020 was over last week, but we're going to keep doing the series with a bunch of other great, awesome student presenters from ESA 2020, and we're going to keep this going. So today I'm going to hand over the floor to Jimmy, and I'm going to have him introduce himself first and just talk about where he's from. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name's Jimmy. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you, Jisha, for putting this on. So I just graduated from University of California, Berkeley. Just finished my bachelor's there in molecular environmental bio. Now I'm just kind of looking to get into conservation and whatnot, and I just attended ESA 2020 for the first time. It was a great experience. It was online this year, which was definitely interesting, but I learned a lot and it was a lot of fun. I'm just looking forward to the future, and I plan to start my PhD in fall 2021. So I'm just planning to work for a year before that and get involved with conservation and just helping species. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Kind of summed up the entire video today in just those couple seconds. But so now I'm gonna have you talk about your research and your presentation and kind of where you started it off. You know, where that everything came from, and you can just take it on. Yeah.
Great. So I did, my research project was on foraging behavior of an invasive day gecko in the island of Moorea, which is, it's an island in French Polynesia in the South Pacific. And so I was able to do this research through UC Berkeley. It's actually a class they offer. So Berkeley has a research station down on the island there. And so every fall they take a group of like 20 to 22 students to go down there with like 3 professors and some grad student assistants. And basically you're down there for 10 weeks and you come up with your own independent research project, and then you kind of just carry it out, and they're there to help you work through it and stuff, but you basically lead the whole thing yourself. It was a super awesome experience. I learned a lot, had a lot of help from my professors and everybody, and all the other students as well, because you help everybody. The students, like we all help each other with data collection and everything. So it's a great environment to have like kind of your first research experience. So specifically, I was studying the day geckos there. It's called Phelsuma laticata, or the gold dust day gecko. And as I mentioned, I was studying their foraging behavior and just kind of foraging ecology in general. And this was kind of because, as I mentioned, it's an invasive species there. And so kind of having the general ecology and like knowledge of all that stuff is super important for invasive species and what impacts they can have on the ecosystem they're in. And specifically with geckos, there's not like a whole lot known about their foraging behavior or their behavior in general. They're very unique compared to other lizards. And it's just super important because there's a lot of geckos that are invasive to Hawaii, like other tropical islands, the Americas and whatnot. This species specifically has been introduced here in French Polynesia, Hawaii, the Seychelles, Texas, even Los Angeles. So it's kind of just everywhere. So I kind of wanted to look at what its foraging behavior is and how it responds to different things in its environment, and kind of what makes it behave differently, to see if we can kind of assess how it affects the environments that it invades. And so we can kind of use that then as a proxy for looking at other invasions where it's occurring and spreading, and other invasions of similar lizards with like similar behaviors and whatnot. So kind of in the scope of invasive ecology and conservation biology. And I guess, to kind of break down foraging strategy, it's normally studied in four different kind of questions or groups. And this is like optimal diet, the foraging group size, foraging space, and foraging period. And so my study mainly focused on the foraging space and foraging period aspect. So basically what I did is several field surveys where I would just go out there was like an initial marking survey where I just basically ran around the whole island, like catching geckos, marking them and stuff, doing different measurements, taking temperatures, and then I would let them go. And so they each had a unique ID on them, like an ID number. And so I did that for a few weeks, and then once I had a sufficient sample size, I came back and did a whole bunch of behavioral observations. So once I would find one of my ID geckos in the field, I'd basically just kind of sit there and just watch it for about 30 minutes, just kind of sit there. And as I said, I'd always have like a classmate with me, so they would help me be taking notes and stuff. But basically, we would document any time they would be making a movement and for how long. And then, so later, after I had all this data, then I would compile it with the temperatures and like compare it to its size and stuff. So kind of looking at, is it moving more if it's bigger? Is it moving more if it's hotter? And all that good stuff. So yeah, and some of my findings include, so for one, the general strategy that it exhibits for foraging behavior is known as a sit and wait strategy. So that basically means it's like an ambush predator, and it kind of sits there and waits for prey to come by, as opposed to kind of the other side of the spectrum would be an actively foraging predator where they're constantly on the move looking for stuff. So this gecko is not like that. It's more ambush tactics. And some of the specific factors that affect its behavior are the substrate temperature and the body size. Like so, larger ones actually move less than the smaller ones do. And also, interestingly, sex affects them as well. So the females move considerably more than the males do. And then also the date of observation seemed to have some sort of effect on their behavior. It was definitely statistically significant, but I'm not really quite sure. Nothing really seems to be correlated to that. So there must be some other unknown factor for why on different days they're more active. So still looking into that. But yeah, just basically what I gleaned from the study and whatnot helps further the limited literature on gecko foraging, and also just contributes to knowledge on the impact of invasive species and in light of climate change, as well as increasing globalization and whatnot, where we're moving lots of species around and there's lots of movement. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic explanation. Didn't know why you were nervous in the beginning, but I do have a couple questions for you. You said at the very beginning you were running around tagging geckos. How many did you tag? Like, what was your end?
Yeah, so overall I tagged about 70 of them. I think it was 77. And so that definitely took a while. And I was pretty nervous in the beginning too, because when I was sexing them, I was noticing I really only was finding females. Mm-hmm. And kind of one of my main things was going to be to compare the different sexes. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, this is not going to work. But, I just kind of kept at it. And we finally got some males in there. And so then by the end, I had like basically equal numbers of males and females.
Yeah, how long did it take for you to tag like 77 geckos?
I was doing that for about 3.5 weeks.
Wow.
And then there was about equal amount, like 3 to 4 weeks, where I was going back and observing those ones that I had marked. And that took much longer because I was trying to get 30-minute observations on each of them. So mm-hmm. obviously I could only do so many in one day. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, like if I just catch one, measure it, mark it, and then let it go. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So.
And you also were talking about like how you weren't sure why they acted differently in different days. So are you talking about like specific like days of the week, or like so what kind of days were you talking about? Like what was your difference there?
Yeah. So yeah, like kind of different days of the week, and it just kind of seems like if we like look at the data, there's like some days, like for example, their head movements, they move their head a lot when they're looking for prey, mm-hmm. and when they're kind of actively hunting. Mm-hmm. And so on some days, there would just be like a huge spike in the amount of head raises they were doing per minute. And mm-hmm. then some days it would just be like super far down. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of like in the literature, there's some explanations for this, but none of them really make sense for this study. Like mm-hmm. a lot of it, they could days could be due to seasonality, but that didn't really make sense here because my study wasn't really long enough for like I was studying them all in the same season. And then there's some stuff that has to do with like the phase of the moon and like lunar phase.
Yeah.
But that's obviously more for like nocturnal species, so that's not really a factor. So I don't really know why there's so much variation there. A possible thing that there could be that I don't have data on is well, one, whether the geckos had actually eaten, when was the last time they'd eaten. So if they have like empty stomachs, maybe they're going to be eating more.
Yeah. So I do want to ask. So since you told me this was all done on an island, are these like a coastal species? So would like tide have any effect on them, or like changing in tide and like stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because I know humidity can definitely be a factor in their behavior and stuff. I'm not really sure about the tides because they were sort of more inland. So there's 4 other species on the island of geckos, and a lot of them were kind of more on the coastal side of things.
Right.
But these guys were kind of more on the inner part of the island in the forest and stuff. So.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that would be like on a daily basis because the only thing I can tell is like if their prey are moving, or like their prey are more sparse or dense in that particular day. But then that would mean you would have to study the prey's behavior, not the geckos anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and like what a lot of like similar studies do is they'll stomach pump the geckos or lizards so then they can see if the gecko is eaten or not, or like when the last time that was. But unfortunately, because of like how I did the project and stuff, we didn't have like the animal permits to be able to do that.
So what were the typical prey you had like for the geckos that you were studying? What was the typical prey?
Yeah, so basically the main thing I saw was actually ants, just tons and tons of ants, and then which is kind of interesting because normally like ambush predators, they more go after very large prey items that are like moving kind of fast instead of like grouped smaller prey items. So I'm wondering if that might have to do with because they're invasive here, and so they're not really, their diet isn't as natural as it could be. But one thing that did remain the same is like day geckos are known to be nectivores, so they eat flower nectar and like pollen and whatnot. And so I did witness that a couple of times where they'd be licking the leaf or the flower trying to get nectar and stuff. So yeah, they're kind of, the day geckos are unique in the fact that they eat insects as well as feed on nectar. So.
Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. I don't think I have any other questions about your research. Is there any comments? Like, there's something that we need to talk about now and not in the Q&A session after. Is there anything that we need to talk about in the comments? Because I can't see them.
No, nothing so far.
Nothing so far? Okay. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was your goals, like your future goals. You mentioned you wanted to do your PhD starting fall 2021. So now I guess we want to talk about more of your conservation goals and like what you want to do in the future. Yeah.
Totally. So I'm super interested in conservation, and I really like reptiles. So that's probably where I'll go for the focus of my PhD. But I'm just definitely interested in wildlife conservation in general. And so I kind of my main goal for going after PhD is so I can conduct field research on kind of better methods for studying conservation and better implications for how we can save species and whatnot. I've been trying to get involved with as many things as I can. Actually, I have a science Instagram where I post stuff every 2 weeks or so, just on different species accounts and kind of their common misconceptions and conservation threats and stuff, and just general information about them, just to kind of try and keep people informed and stuff. And so I hope to one day kind of turn that into something bigger, and hopefully, just continue to save species and impact the planet.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would definitely say that's fantastic. So you said you had a science Twitter handle. I've seen it, but if you don't mind putting your handle on the comments so people who are in the live can actually see it, and I can, put that on the Facebook Live, like the description for the YouTube video, and then those more people, whoever watches the video, can see it. Do you have a science Twitter? So that's the next thing I want to ask, because I know the academic community is pretty active on Twitter. Do you have a science Twitter, like where you kind of?
Yeah, I do in fact. So I'm just kind of recently now on Twitter. So I've been building it over the past couple weeks. But
Yep.
yes, I do. So I will definitely post my handle in there as well.
Yep. Because I agree, my Twitter handle has been active for so long, but it's only ever had my ESA student section tweets, and for the past 2 weeks, I've actually made it my own professional Twitter. So I do agree. So science Twitter is pretty important as a form of communication, and you said you were like trying to expand it to like more of like a program or something like that in the future, just to like as like educational or like an informative program, or more on the active side.
Yeah, so one of the things I specifically kind of get into is art communication, and kind of I really like drawing and painting and just even doing like digital artwork and stuff. And so I hope to maybe one day turn it into sort of have like apparel where it'll be like some design, say like an elephant design, put that on a T-shirt, and then if people are buying these T-shirts, then those proceeds go to something that specifically benefits elephant conservation, or specifically is donating to some organizations that are working towards that. So that's kind of the initial thought, and then just definitely like keeping up the posts of just like educational posts and kind of what we can all do to help out, even if you're not a researcher or not a scientist, what you can be.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And so you're more on the nonprofit and fundraising side as well as on the educational side of things, which is cool. I think we have a couple people who are wanting to start something up like and on similar lines. I'm trying to put like together a webinar for that, like science communication and people who want to do very unconventional careers, like non-academic careers. And I think if I was gonna have a panel, I would definitely invite you on there to see what your ideas are on science communication. If you
yeah, that would be great.
Yep. So, because there's so many people that actually, more than I realized there were, because at the meeting I met so many people who were like, yeah, I'm trying to like start a nonprofit or like do an education program. I was like, oh, there's more of you than I thought, which is great because we need more people, and that's something really cool. So you said T-shirts. I've seen T-shirts where they put like little conservation facts on the T-shirts along with like this little sticker of the animal, and so that way, when they wear it, other people who see it will also get that little tidbit of fact, and then it goes towards a good cause. And I have seen that before, and I really think that's super cool, and we need more people doing it.
Yeah, there's so much great stuff out there, and people are just coming up with like awesome ideas all the time. But there's always more we can do. But
and I make it a habit to buy as much as I can. I have a soft tie obsession, so I try to buy them from conservation centers for specific animals and then post about them. So I used to do that a long time ago. I don't think I have that account active anymore because I started a new one, but I do still keep that up because I really, cute stuff really gets me, and then if it's also part of conservation, even better. So I have a lot of animal toys. But yeah, so I guess the next thing I would ask you, if we don't have any comments, so do we have any comments? You also mentioned you do digital art and like other art stuff. Our incoming chair is actually super into digital art and like plant side of things. I don't know if you've seen her Twitter, Cali Oldfield.
Oh yeah.
So she does plenty of stuff, and I was like, you're like the third person I've heard say that actually in this live series, and I'm like, yeah, that's super cool.
I was in one of her breakout sessions during one of the mixers, and so
that's cool.
So yeah, she talked a little bit about that. She's seen on her website. She's done some really great work.
Yep. Awesome. I see everything everything that she posts, and I'm like, wow, that is talent right there. Because I remember when she first started it, and I was like, that's super cool. Now she's doing like post stamps, and I'm like, I would buy them. Let me know where to find them. But yeah, so you said, did you attend the student section mixer? That's my first question about the annual meeting.
I did.
Yes. Thank you. First person I see on this live series that actually attended the mixer, because everybody else was double booked. So I'm super happy. So did you enjoy the trivia session?
Yes, I did. It was actually really fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
And that makes me super proud because I put together a lot of the questions and that was my idea. And my sister. So
Yeah,
we put that together and I'm
nice.
really happy to hear that a lot of people enjoyed it. And we're gonna do it again. So we're trying to have like trivia nights, so like socials like every
Oh,
month or
awesome.
so. Our like movie screenings will alternate so we don't do trivia every month. But we
Hmm.
do have a lot of questions that we didn't use because we didn't want to take up the time frame. Also, I gave like 5 minutes for 5 questions, which is not proper trivia timings because you
Yeah.
would that is way too much time than they needed. But again,
Yeah.
we were catering to a much wider audience who didn't know about trivia. So trivia nights, like what we host, they'll have the option to participate or not. But at the same time, if they do participate, then they're gonna have that stricter time limit and more harder questions, depending on who
Yeah.
we have. But yeah,
Would it be the same kind of like Zoom format where like we went out, the teams went out into breakout sessions and stuff?
yeah, kind of like that. We have a trivia platform that we want to use, but I'm
Oh,
gonna.
okay, cool.
So that would mean that you guys would need to have a sign up sheet so I can assign teams
Hmm.
beforehand, because that's the way that works. Because I can input it beforehand. But again, that didn't work this time because we didn't have a sign up sheet beforehand to like assign teams. But we do have a platform that we want to use. It'll make it much easier. So it'll kind of be like Kahoot, but for trivia. So
Okay, gotcha.
so it'll be a little different. So yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to ask, and I'm super happy that you made it. What were other things that you found awesome about the annual meeting, and then we'll go over the next one.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, this was my first time attending the annual meeting. So I was just overwhelmed by like everything, like the amount of content and just the quality of everything. Like it was so cool. And I really enjoyed just like the general like community, and like just in small like workshop sessions or small breakout rooms and stuff. Like everybody's so engaging and so like approachable and like willing to give advice. So that was like super cool to see. Some of the particular talks that I really liked. There was one on art and design specifically, and like engaging the public in science and stuff. So I really liked that, and attended the Q&A, the live Q&A for that. I also really liked the Inspire talk on natural history, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
kind of talking about like natural history being the heart of ecology and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I that was like well inspiring for
I
me.
mean,
But
yeah.
um,
We
yeah,
build
it
on
was
history
definitely
all the time. I mean, we do a literature search for a reason, so everything's based
right.
off of
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
So yeah, so did you like watch like student talks or like So I heard like inspire session from you, Q&As, workshops, but what about like the contributed talks and posters? Did you get to a lot of them or did you not?
Yeah, so during the actual meeting, I was kind of trying to be more focused on some of the live stuff and
Mm-hmm.
like workshopping and in networking sessions. But now like during the meeting, I was like favoriting a bunch of different things like to my profile, and so now I'm kind of trying to catch up on some of the contributed talks and posters. So it's definitely there's a lot to get through, but I want to
Yeah.
get through it all.
There's
So
like thousands, I think. Definitely more than a
yeah,
thousand.
yeah.
So there's plenty. Keyword searches should be like really helpful if you want to try to favorite more.
Hmm.
Yeah, but also the Q&A is ongoing. So the asynchronous Q&A, like you can still comment on their post. So
Right,
so
right.
that's super helpful, and that's something I want to say for anybody that's watching and anybody that will watch the video is that the asynchronous Q&A will go on for another 3 months. So if you didn't catch them during the meeting, you can definitely still email them. I mean, they might not always respond to the comments, but they most probably will. So I can't say they will all do that for sure, but we will definitely have that. What other aspect of the meeting did I want to discuss? So, did you attend any of the off ESA meeting, like stuff that went on outside of the meeting, but were related to the meeting?
Yeah, yeah. I actually, I went to two of them. So I went to the one on the first day, the mega mixer
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of people in it, and so that was cool. We basically just did like a bunch of different breakout groups the whole time, and like introduced ourselves and like got to meet new people and stuff. I think they were saying normally that session happens at like a bar or something, and people are just hanging
Yeah.
out and like talking and stuff. So that was super cool. Met some interesting people, and then I also attended the University of Georgia one. It was kind of just it was like faculty, alumni, and prospective students. And so that's one of the schools I've been looking at.
Oh,
So I attended to kind of hear from people and
yeah.
get to see what the gist is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you mentioned University of Georgia, Cali actually goes there. She's a postdoc. I mean, she's a
Yeah, yeah,
doctoral
that's right.
candidate there. So you should definitely ask her if you want to know more about people there. No, she's more on
Yeah,
the
totally.
plant biology side, but she'd be happy to help, I'm sure.
Cool.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Don't know. So yeah, like you mentioned, the mixers usually happen at bars, but ours were supposed to be like, I don't think we were going to do a bar, more of like a karaoke bar or something like that, like somewhere we
Oh
can host
yeah,
a
that
lot
would
of
be
people. I
cool.
think it was a Dave and Buster's this time, but it would have been nice. Again, I'm sorry your first ESA annual meeting was virtual because the in-person
Yeah.
meetings are arguably more fun, but I still did enjoy this a lot. I would really enjoy a hybrid version because that way I can get to more talks, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So that way I can see them online, and if I miss them in person, I would definitely enjoy that. So if you're planning to attend the next annual meeting, which I highly encourage you to, which
Yes,
is
I
going to be in
definitely will.
Long
Yeah.
Beach, I would definitely, yeah, it would be fun. I would say that definitely. I'm the person that runs around everywhere in the conference, and if this was an
Yeah.
in-person conference, I would have probably, I don't know, I would have tried to catch as many student presentations as I can. I would have done these lives in person, so I would have caught you after your presentation and be like, okay, give me a few
Right.
words, and then let me put it on social media. So that was what my initial plan was, but then,
Gotcha.
everything happened. So this is kind of like the improvised plan and more of a long-term plan too, because we want to bring back our student spotlights. So I retitled it to like kind of our highlights now. So now it's like this
Hmm.
is what we are doing, and we're hoping to do it more of these. But yeah. So what else about the meeting did I want to ask? So did you? So you did a contributed talk. So what, like uploading, recording? Did you have any issues, or like did you feel like something could have been better?
So I did. It was like my slides and then like audio in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing, I guess, I would say it just was like so strange, kind of like giving a talk, like just looking into my camera, and
Yeah.
just like talking to nobody, you know. So that was like definitely like a weird thing. But in terms of like uploading and stuff, I didn't really have any issues.
Mm-hmm.
It took a couple like recording takes though to get it like in the right time and like get
Mm-hmm.
the so like the timing wasn't like screwed up or something like that.
Yeah.
But overall, it wasn't really many issues.
Yeah. Did you use Zoom or what did you use to record?
Yeah. So I used Zoom and then I just screen shared my
Yeah.
presentation and clicked through the PowerPoints.
Yeah, I would. So since you said it's weird, like staring into the screen and just by yourself, have a person
Mhm.
that's like muted and not on video. That helps a lot. I
Oh
recommend.
yeah,
So like if you make
I didn't
some
even think of
mistakes or
that.
something, yeah, you can just like stop it and you can get a clean cut when you do your editing. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
works. That worked for me. Yeah, I had to do a couple of takes too, but I suppose the next thing I want to ask is, did you get like a lot of comments on your talk? Did you like have good feedback?
Actually, not yet. I don't. I haven't really had any comments yet on the video, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people are still just getting around to seeing some of
Yeah,
those. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
I only
hopefully there'll be some good input.
yeah, I only saw your presentation from the video you sent me, which is the same as that's on the meeting. But because so I didn't see it there, I'll definitely go by
Right.
and drop a couple words, just make sure anybody else who comes and sees it. And that's an issue because we have a lot, and people are just
Yeah.
not
There's just so
getting
many talks.
around because there's the talks and then there's the posters. There's just so much, and that's like a huge resource pool right there. And well, again, you're gonna get a shout out right after this, and I'm pretty sure I put your
Awesome.
presentation on our Twitter. I'll do it again,
Yeah.
and I'll put it on the YouTube video description, so that way people, when they see it, they can click on it and then go straight to your presentation. Well,
Okay.
if they
Great.
register for the meeting, then they should be able to access it. So,
Hmm.
and also your video is gonna be uploaded anyway, so your presentation video is gonna be uploaded
Right.
anyway. So, either way, I'm pretty sure you'll get a lot of good feedback and comments for your presentation, and I'm sorry that you didn't get any. I mean, I'm sure you would have gotten much more if it was in person, because you would actually have
Yeah.
people coming into your talks asking spot questions. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of spot questions, especially if they're from like people that know way much more about the field than I
Right.
do, and
Right.
it's kind of like an anxiety wrecking moment, especially for your first conference, being like that
Yeah.
large of a conference. But I'm pretty sure it would have been pretty fun because, like you said, the ESA community is pretty nice. We are pretty welcoming. We are super nice. We won't put you on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I was super surprised by just like how like willing people are to connect and just how, I mean, I guess, yeah, like how nice people are, you know,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
just
This
willing to
is the
help out.
first
It's awesome.
scientific community I've been a part of that has been
Yeah,
so welcoming, so diverse, and just, ecology is the most diverse science there is, but at the same time, the people are just so open to connecting and just saying hi. And in the
totally.
annual meeting, like in person meetings, it's even like more so, I would say. All the people you meet, you'll end up like going on coffee with them or like lunch with them. There's so many. Like I was like busy like the entire time. I would like run around, meet people, and then they would be like, okay, let's go for a coffee and talk more about the research. Like it was like a whole bustling community right there, and there was like so
Right.
much. And it is thousands of people, so it is pretty
Yeah.
busy at the same time. I think it's pretty fun. Um, were you like as part of the Seeds program? I did want to ask you that.
No, I actually was not.
Right. You are the
Yeah.
second person I've had on this live this time that was not part of the Seeds program. But
Oh, cool.
again, the Seeds program is pretty cool. It's really geared towards undergrads to give them research opportunities. Like you had a
Okay.
coursework, so the Seeds does instead like par fellowships, which is essentially summer research programs. Super cool, fully funded, and does similar work to what you were talking about, but just at a different site. Yeah. What else? I wanted to talk about that. I'm just thinking about if anything I'm missing. I don't think so. Do we have any questions?
Not at the moment. No.
Yeah, it means you did a fantastic job explaining everything, so people don't really have questions for you. Yeah, and meeting experience wise, we talked about a lot of stuff. So, okay, here's what we'll do. So I'll do like the little YouTube conclusion, and then we can open it up to Q&A, and we can stay on till like 7. Okay, so yeah. So thank you so much everyone for watching this video, and thank you so much for joining us in the live. Today we had Jimmy talk about his research, his goals, and his experience with the annual meeting. He gave us a lot of insights. So if you missed the live, or if some of the people you know missed the live, ask them to watch the video. And again, this will be uploaded in YouTube by tonight, so you will be able to see it. And thank you so much for joining us, and until next time.